Good afternoon, everyone. Today is September 9th. The time is 4:30, and I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting of the County School Board of Frederick County to order. We have an agenda before us. How would the board like to proceed?
Madam Chair, I propose that we take the agenda before us as presented.
Second.
Sorry.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda as set before us, and it's been seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, it looks like we have quite a packed agenda today, so I will turn it over to Dr. Hummer and his team for their presentations.
All right, Madam Chair, thank you so much, and I appreciate everybody's work on this presentation. Thank you to Mrs. Anderson and her team. So this is probably the second biggest meeting of the year for us, the first being our budget approval, but this is to discuss our year-end savings. So there's going to be a lot of items on here that we'll talk about our spending throughout the course of the year, and we have two action items for you at the end of this meeting of carrying forward those restricted and unrestricted funds, and as we have a recommendation for how we want to spend those unrestricted funds. So we have that conversation here at the end. Before we get to that, though, we also have two full-time equivalent requests that we also want you all to take into consideration to go to the full board for approval as well, and that is for the two projects that we have going on right now with the addition of the Fourth High School, but that will transition over from the James Wood project over to the Fourth High School, so we'll talk about that here in a second as well. So with that, I will now hand it over to Mrs. Anderson and her team. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, let's get started. So first on the agenda, we have, just as information only, to let you know, since the last time that we met as a committee, the FY26 budget document is available on our website. It is an user interactive document, and it's organized into 4 sections. So we're trying to appeal to all types of audience to ensure that our financial information is transparent, and it even includes line-by-line detail for our accounts and our operating fund. So again, just for information only, that our budget document is available.
Excellent. I really greatly appreciate all the hyperlinks you guys put in there. It's not just a PDF document that's not a living, this is actually a living document where someone can go through and they can click on a link or click on a reference and it goes exactly to that spot. This is about 600 pages or so, I believe, last I looked. So it's very nice that that is in that format so that folks like myself who don't want to carry around the book that you so graciously printed for me anyway, I can go on, as well as the general public, and find exactly what I'm looking for. So thank you.
Great. We did expand on it this year to break down more information by our departments as well as our school locations. So next, that jumps us to a full-time equivalent position request. We currently have one full-time clerk of the works position with Frederick County Schools who has been actively involved on the James Wood High School project, who will now move to the Fourth High School project. So since we also have the Middletown and Jordan Springs projects coming up, we are requesting to add 2 full-time equivalent clerk of the works. And as you can see on the slide, here's a summary of the responsibilities that the clerk of the works positions have. So I'll pause for a minute.
So essentially, the way I understand the function of the clerk of the works is they're our advocate. They are hired by us, and they advocate on behalf of the school system on site every single day for that particular project.
That's correct.
Okay. And also, too, it's my understanding that a clerk of the works is not just a public school request. Any major project, whether it's a governmental project or even in the private industry, those individuals and those corporations have clerks of the works as well.
That is a common practice, yes.
So essentially, a clerk of the works could advocate for more fiscal responsibility and ensuring that our money is well spent.
They are making sure that contract specifications are adhered to, and that all communication exists between the project architect, Frederick County Public Schools, and our vendors.
Perfect.
And Madam Chair, if I might also add, we also need to make sure we stay on time.
Yeah.
Because if we don't stay on time, that can also add to cost as well. So they make sure the project stays within the timeline, which is a big part of that project as well.
Great. Thank you.
Madam Chair. A couple questions about the clerk of the works position. One, I would like to see the posting or the job requirements for that. Are they going to have that construction experience? Have they ever been a superintendent? Have they ever of a job site? Have they ever dealt with something at that size of a budget? Have they, whether they have or haven't, that's fine, but I'd like to get that background so we get the best suitable candidate. Have they worked with schools, within the budgets and stuff like that? And then lastly, I know that these two projects we have on the books, but we don't have approved projects going down the road for, let's say, the next middle school, right? Would these people have that understanding that once these projects are completed, that this may not be a carry-on position?
That is correct.
Okay, so there presents a challenge in hiring, but I totally understand that. But hopefully, some of these other projects come to fruition.
Madam Chair, if I can add to that, Mr. Atkins, great questions. And if I might add, the clerk of the work that we have on the James Wood project, he's amazing, and he did great work for us. If we did not have the fourth high school, unfortunately, that position would have gone away. So he understood that coming in, and luckily for him, the project still continues. We're just going to transfer him over to the fourth high school. So to your point, absolutely.
Madam Chair, and this, Mr. Atkins, I hope this is something that you can speak to a little bit. So we're going to carry over the one we've got at James Wood and then add 2 additional. Does that sound proportional to us in terms of having one person per site? I mean, is this a lot of money?
I understand that. Yes, it is, because having somebody that has to bounce from site to site, while it's feasible, it's a big headache, especially working with those 2 different budgets, 2 different general contractors. Even if it's the same general contractor, you have different staff over there at one, whether it be your superintendent, foreman, whomever is on that site, project managers, everybody else that they have to deal with, and on a day-to-day basis, that's a tall order to be bouncing from 2 different ones.
That's actually super helpful. I appreciate that. The only other question I have is, we say that we're going to find the funding in the construction fund budget. Was this money that had already been carved out in anticipation of needing a clerk of the works?
Yes. So each 3 of these projects had this built into that cost.
Okay, so
this is no additional cost.
Or in place of anything?
Correct. So it's not cutting into other things we want to have done to each of those projects. It was built into that cost.
Great.
Yes, great question.
Madam Chair, if I could add just a few of the requirements or qualifications so that I can answer that question now, is a minimum of 10 years of experience in construction-related field, trade-related training in one or more construction field, ability to read and understand requirements of construction drawings and specifications, knowledge of construction means, methods, procedures, terminology, knowledge of codes referenced in the contract documents, understanding general conditions and construction contracts, ability to read and understand construction bar chart, schedule, so on and so forth. But that gives you a good idea of the general ideas of the qualifications required.
Yeah, that's tracking.
Yep.
For a motion? All right, Madam Chair, I recommend that we forward to the full board for consideration the request for 2 additional clerks of the works full-time equivalent positions to support the Middletown and Jordan Springs Elementary expansion construction projects.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All right. I seeing no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, so we'll move on to the next part of our agenda, which is financial audits. So I want to remind the committee that the school division is audited 4 times a year from the financial standpoint. One of our audits, which we're currently going through right now, is an audit of the financial statements that we're going to present to you tonight. As well as we're audited 2 times under an internal audit to audit our internal controls. I think a couple of committees past, we talked to you about the most recent result of that one. But this evening, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Chapman, and she's going to talk to you about the results of our Student Activity Fund audit, which represents all 21 schools, about $4 million flowing in and flowing out of those accounts.
I just want to foot stomp just one quick thing before Ms. Chapman takes over. I think it's fascinating and very appropriate that the county is hiring those auditors. We have no say in who those auditors are. It's the county coming in and saying, you will be the auditor for FCPS. So I like that. I think that's great third-party independent verification?
All of our audits are independent auditors, and the county hires the one for our financial statement audit because Frederick County Schools is a component unit of the county.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. So I'd like to first take a few moments to recognize our bookkeepers for the amazing job that they do. They are our frontline financial people. They handle all of the incoming funds and outgoing funds for their locations, along with juggling many other duties at their sites. The student activity funds are conducted annually, as Kristen said, at the end of June or the first part of July at all 21 locations. Student activity funds primarily consist of fees collected from students for club dues and activities, athletic gate receipts, fundraisers, and instructional activities such as field trips. Internal control findings occur when a transaction that is tested does not follow the school board policy or FCPS manual of accounting. Auditors are looking for appropriate signatures and proper documentation for transactions. The results of the audit, there were 2 comments provided by the auditors. These comments are common and were expected. They include cash receipts, and I'll just read you the statement. It says, due to this decentralized nature of cash collection, it is not practical or cost beneficial to establish adequate internal accounting controls to ensure that all cash receipts are recorded. The second comment has to do with segregation of duties. In general, the internal controls are designed to safeguard assets and help prevent losses from employee dishonesty or error. A fundamental concept of internal control is separation of duties. The basic premise of this concept is that no one employee should have access to both collecting cash receipts and making cash disbursements or to all phases of a transaction. We have these comments every year. Both situations are common among student activity funds and similar organizations and are due to the limited number of staff within each school location.
So essentially, the fix would be to get a 100% clean audit and not have those 2 comments. The fix would be status quo unchanging, of course, and our next audit would be to add more people.
So these are
Right.
just comments, they're not actual findings. So
Okay.
the next thing I have for you is that for the second year in a row, we did have a clean audit. All 21 school locations had 0 findings. So that's a great accomplishment for our bookkeepers and just shows their hard work and their dedication to their positions.
I just want to foot stomp this as well. So it's my understanding, at least from the bookkeepers and the staff that I've seen at the schools that I visited, and then knowing where they sat at Sharando when I was there, they don't have some quiet office where they can sit and cipher over the numbers to make sure everything's perfect. They're right in the middle of Grand Central Station, if you will, the hub of all activity at the school, which is the office.
That is
They are
correct.
right there with a desk right there with all the noise, everybody coming in and out. So to not have any findings is tremendous. So I applaud them. That's amazing. That does not go unnoticed. That's massive.
And for transparency, the reports are on board docs as well as the FCPS website and includes the inflows and outflows of funds by school location. I think Kristen wanted to.
And I just wanted to give a quick comment. I would be remiss if I didn't echo Tiffany's comments about our bookkeepers. They're amazing. They're diligent, attention to detail in very thriving environments. They do quality work all the time, and we are so grateful for them. But I also want to give a shout out to this finance team. They are wonderful in supporting the bookkeepers. It is our mission to be support to our bookkeepers, to help them be successful in their roles. So we follow up with training multiple times a year because we want them to be successful.
Excellent.
Okay, so next I'll move on to the athletic program financial reports. That's okay. The athletic reports are posted on the FCPS website under financial reports and audits. A total of 2,637 FCPS students participated in the athletic programs. That breaks down to 1,888 students from the high school and 749 from the middle schools. If they did participate in 2 sports, they were counted twice, just so that you are aware of that. There is a $75 participation fee for high school sports. Total expenditures for the high school and middle schools was $2.5 million, just over $2.5 million. $1.4 million of that total was paid out of school board funds. These funds were used to pay for things like coaches and athletic directors, services, and travel to events. Just over $1.1 million was paid out of the student activity funds. These funds are used for things like uniforms, equipment purchases, and event registrations. Total receipt for this fund, just over $913,000.
And just to make sure I understand the line, total middle and high school receipts, that's essentially ticket sales at the gate for games, right?
A lot of that is, yes.
Okay, great.
Madam Chair, I just have two follow-ups. So a year ago, this was one of my first time seeing some of these numbers, and I remember asking then, because this is something that we were told was tough, was the increased costs in officials, all of the ancillary things that had to be paid for. Are we still seeing increases in those costs based on what you saw in the audit?
I don't,
Go ahead.
It's okay if we don't know either. I'm totally okay with that answer.
We'll be happy to follow up with a response for
Right.
you.
The
Yeah.
reason I'm asking is because I see that you guys are doing a lot with not a lot. And I'm just curious to know, like, if those costs and if those obligations are growing, where are we making it up, right? You know, is it time to have that conversation about, as a board, activity funds and fees to participate? Because these things certainly aren't getting cheaper.
If I may, Madam Chair, we can definitely get you a specific answer to that. But what I'm seeing, because I get out a lot, as you guys know, and I talk to a lot of coaches and a lot of the CSAs, and what we're seeing is more of the material side of the house is where we're lacking. So, for example, we're on a uniform cycle, and getting uniforms for a team is very expensive, and that will cut into your budget by at least a third. Right. So when you have new uniforms needing to be purchased because we want our kids to be competitive, I mean, we're going for 4 years in a row straight for a state championship. Yeah. They're not out there, not diving on the floor and needing new uniforms. We're also seeing the need to upgrade fields. I know that at some of our high school, actually at all of our high schools, those fields are not where they need to be. I know we're talking right now about potentially looking at the turf and what that will mean in regards to upkeep, as well as buying new equipment, buying new balls for each of the sports. So those are the types of things that are going to cut into this. And as we know, inflation, that those costs are going up. In regards to the referees, that's something we can definitely look into. What I can't share with you is there is a shortage still. I know for a fact of that. I was just talking to some folks at the varsity game last week and then a JV game the previous week. That's why some of our games are on Thursdays, because they don't have enough refs to take on all those games. So that is cutting into that as well. So we can get the exact cost to see if there was any sort of inflation and get that to you. But I appreciate you acknowledging that. And that's why we really rely on those ticket sales. I know sometimes we get some complaints from families that say they have 4 or 5 kids with them, and we get that. We truly do. And there's a way that we can help some of those families out. But we rely on those ticket sales for a lot of these things to make sure that our kids get exactly what they need to participate. So
This might be an unpopular opinion, especially with what you just said. But what if we raise the ticket price by $1? Bringing that in. I mean, because not only do we have, like you were just saying, Dr. Hummer, the uniform cycle, but we're also looking at putting in the 4th high school, which is going to, either we're going to have to figure out local dollars to help supplement this fund, or we're going to have to start raising ticket prices somewhere along the line.
It's something that we can definitely take a look at. We do try to benchmark with other school divisions to see what kind of fees or ticket prices that they're charging, but it's something that we could pursue.
The other aspect, if I may, Madam Chair, is we have some fantastic boosters at each of our high schools. And they always step in to help with some of these things. But we also have to be careful with Title IX. So if they're supporting a boys' sport or a girls' sport, they also have to support the other sport as well. So say if they say we want to buy a scoreboard for the baseball team, then we have to come in and follow suit and buy one for the you got it. So we have to make sure we're doing that across the board. So we could definitely look into that a little bit more. I greatly appreciate your all support with this. I know our athletes and our families appreciate that. But we can definitely sit and take a look to see not only the gate fees, but maybe the participation fees. Maybe that's something else we take a look at as well to make sure we're keeping up with the growth. So thank you for that. We'll take a look at it.
Okay. This slide is just a breakdown of the expenses and receipts by season for high schools.
It's a bit of an eye chart for those in the audience or at home. This is located on that hyperlinked budget document that you can find online.
And then this is the breakdown by season for expenses and receipts for the middle schools. And that concludes my slides. Do you have any questions about the athletic reports? Awesome. Thank you. Now I'll turn it back over to Kristen.
All right, so now we're going to spend the rest of our agenda talking about the results of our school board funds. We have 12 different school board funds that we're going to walk you through the highlights. I just want to let you know that detailed information is provided in board docs as well as posted to our finance website, but the slides that we will go through will be more summary information. So the first, we're going to talk about our health insurance reserve fund, which I'm going to turn over to Ms. Smith.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, first up, the Health Insurance Reserve Fund, which is comprised of medical and dental premiums collected by Frederick County Public Schools and participating employees. Funds are used to pay for health and dental claims as well as health clinic activities for participating employees. A range for projected claims expense and healthcare utilization is prepared by the insurance carrier. You see the charts break out percentages of funding sources and how they are used. There are currently 1,955 employees and retirees plus their dependents that are covered under the plan. The expenditures were more than revenues last year, leaving a balance of $7.5 million, which is the equivalent of about 4 months of expected claims. The fund balance will roll forward to support claims in future years. And if you see, it says pages 25, 26 up there, that's the link to the detail in the board docs.
Awesome. This question may be answered in that detail to the board docs, but I don't have it before me, so I'll ask it here. The partnership with Valley Health for the Employee Health Clinic, I remember us voting on the spin-up of that health clinic. I think it was around $630,000 at the time to spin that, to start it. What is it that what is the operating cost of our portion? What is our portion of the operating cost per year for that? I see it's only 2% on the bar graph. So 2%, I guess I can answer my own question with some quick public math here. So 2% of the 1.6 million is our expenditure, so that's quite a bit less.
We're going to get you the number here just shortly.
Thank you.
yeah.
Sorry. I know that's been cited by one of the members of the Board of Supervisors as what he called a waste of funds, but I don't see it as such. It seems like
I see it as a cost savings.
I see it as a cost savings. And then aside from the cost savings part, I've spoken with many teachers in the community, and it's a massive benefit, and it's one of the things that keeps them here and not going elsewhere to that eastern county that shall not be named. So, yes.
And when you look at the iceberg effect on any kind of claim, right? We've got legal here, so she can point out the iceberg better than I can. We have somebody gets twisted ankle, right? Walking down a hallway, somebody twists an ankle, they can go to the clinic, and they have continuing care through the clinic, and it's a lot cheaper than going across the street with a twisted ankle, going to the emergency room, paying those bills. It's cheaper not only on Frederick County Public Schools, but it's also cheaper on the employee. So all in all, we can dive into the iceberg a little bit more, but there's a massive cost savings here by having that clinic right here in pocket. So,
Well, and to your point, Mr. Atkins, too, we're self-funded. Our insurance is self-funded, so just big picture, what that means, whenever there's a claim, we're all paying for it. Everyone, well, I should, not us on this dais per se out of our own pockets, but the employees of Frederick County, whether it's in the central office or our teachers all the way to our bus drivers, and everyone pays for that expenditure, whereas with the health clinic, to your point, it's far cheaper. So.
Not to mention less production loss, time off work, substitutes.
part of
et
the
cetera, et
iceberg.
cetera.
Yep.
retraining, getting subs.
We're fans of the health clinic. We'll leave it at that. You can move on. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
guys have the cost, Madam Chair. I wanna make sure.
Okay.
So you were right, 630,000.
30,000, okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Atkins, you are also right. It lowers future claims.
Perfect.
And so we will be providing more information at a future finance committee to show the benefit, not only the qualitative benefits, but also the financial quantitative benefits.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, next up, the Consolidated Services Fund. This fund accounts for bus and vehicle services provided by Frederick County Public Schools and billed to the school division and outside agencies. This includes repairs, parts, and fuel sold to customers through billings. You can see on the chart 82% was billed to FCPS, with the remaining to outside agencies. This fund covers 14 full-time equivalent positions, including mechanics. The ending balance of about $1 million includes $450,000 in inventory. The residual $500,000 in fund balance is assigned as a carry forward to the next fiscal year to support the Consolidated Services operations. And now I'm going to give you to Lisa Reed.
Thank you. Next is our private purpose funds. The school division maintains private purpose endowment funds and a private purpose income fund. The endowment fund includes contributions and expenses associated with the principal, and it maintains a fund balance of $238,326. The income fund includes restricted donations, quarterly interest postings, and restricted expenses. The fund balance of just over $800,000 is restricted for the programs listed on this slide. The fund supports scholarship awards to deserving FCPS students. Bright Futures activities are included in this fund. Bright Futures is funded by donations and billings to Frederick County Public Schools and Winchester City Public Schools. And as a reminder, the fund supports 3 full-time equivalent positions. Next is our Northwestern Regional Education Programs, or NREP funds. The school division maintains the NREP operating and the NREP textbook funds. FCPS is the fiscal agent for this regional program. As evident on the chart, Winchester City, Clark County, and Frederick County school divisions fund NREP along with some state dollars. The ending fund balance of $411,507 at June 30th is credited back to each locality. The fund supports 92 full-time equivalent positions, and the NREP textbook fund balance of $27,978. The balance does roll forward to support textbook purchases next year.
And Ms. Reed, thank you. I just have a comment. If you could go back one, just we're covering all the funds here. This is an overview of all the funds for the public. We're covering all the funds here and giving you the overview of last year. And I've had constituents come to me saying, well, you always end with extra money. Yes, we do. Why? The reason why is because the costs that were projected came in lower. So in this example, a textbook that we may have budgeted to be $50 a piece, it may come in as $30, hence the overflow. It's my understanding that on all funds, it's good operating practice to have about 3 months of surplus operating expenses in each fund. I think that's very wise because God forbid we have an emergency or something that we can't foresee and we need that extra budge. We can actually, that extra margin, I should say, we can actually expend those funds to purchase whatever we need or to cover that. If we didn't and we still spent the money, then we would all wind up in orange jumpsuits, is my understanding. So I don't look good in orange, don't want that.
Neither
So-
do I.
Okay, excellent. Did I get that correct, Mrs. Anderson, as far as the surplus? Okay.
You did, and I
Great.
just wanted to add that unlike the federal government, we cannot run a deficit.
Excellent, thank you. I don't want to hang out in the county jail with Frederick County's not so finest. Sorry, no thanks.
I'll be there with you.
Last year, yeah.
Or the 5-year running average. Because if you don't know the context, these are all in isolation.
That's true.
They don't actually mean anything.
That's a really good point. Dr. Erskine and I are just having a side conversation. You brought up a great point, and not for this presentation, but maybe in the future, next year when we go through this review, maybe have last year's surplus right beside the current year's let me rephrase, last budget cycle's surplus right beside the current surplus, and then perhaps even a few years back just to see the trend.
Yeah,
Be
we
great.
certainly do that.
Just, it gives us a
Yeah.
basis of comparison instead of looking at the numbers in isolation.
Sure.
And so since this is my second time around, I'm trying to compare to what I remember. But I think it would be good for the public too to see, is there something that is suddenly an outlier high or an outlier low that we might have questions about? Which with your department, there never is, but anything could happen.
We can certainly do that.
And a question I have is, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that Winchester City Schools has just pulled out of NREP.
They've pulled out of the early childhood program. So
Okay.
there's a school age program and an early childhood
Okay,
program.
just the early childhood program. Okay. All right. So the budget will change a little bit for that.
That's correct.
All right.
And we're moving on to debt service fund. This accounts for principal and interest payments on general obligation bonds sold through the Virginia Public School Authority to finance major school construction projects. We incurred new debt in FY25, which includes funds for Middletown Elementary, the fourth high school, and the last borrowing for James Wood High School. Here you can see our outstanding debt balance as of June 30. The chart shows that 97% of our funding to pay principal and interest comes from the county general fund. We are currently paying debt on 37 debt issues covering 12 major construction projects over the last 20 years.
I do have just a couple of questions. And Dr. Hummer, this might be something for a future meeting or something that we're just curious about, especially as we start having capital conversations. I'd be interested to know how we're stacking up historically with respect to percentage of debt that we're carrying, even though I know it's actually the county carrying it, but in terms of the makeup coming from school funds. The other thing I'm wondering is, if I remember correctly, last year, a good bit of money, the Board of Supervisors ended up taking out of reserves to cover debt service.
That is correct.
Do we have any idea? Is that a trend that we're?
Well, we wouldn't recommend that, right? Because you're taking money out of a fund that's going to continue to deplenish unless they replenish that pot of money. Typically, it's built into the budget of the county, so that would be our recommendation for what that's worth. We haven't had any conversations as of recent in regards to how that debt is going to be covered. I know the new 3 projects are going to start to hit in the upcoming years, so we're going to have to start to plan ahead and have those conversations with them in regards to how they're planning ahead to fund those projects. And we're getting ready to talk about future projects and how that builds into the debt cycle, because that's going to be a huge factor into that, because it is going to come down to how the community pays for that. So,
One of the
yes. No, yeah, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I apologize.
Madam Chair, I was just going to say, one of the things that I know that we learned over the past year was when these windows open for borrowing, when we can actually go into the bond market, I think the public would really appreciate knowing, especially for those of you who have heard this commitment that we repeat week after week after week in every meeting that we're in about being good stewards of the public dollar. We are going out there and finding the most competitive bond rates and things that we can to be good stewards of the dollar. Unfortunately, not all of those things are within our control. We can do as much as we can do, but it's not completely up to us.
That's correct. And a future finance committee, we're going to dive into debt service and how that process works. And back to your earlier point, through that presentation, we will provide to you what the county calls debt capacity ratios.
Okay.
To make sure that the county isn't over leveraged. So we can talk about, we'll share that information at that time.
That's right. Yep.
Just a question, which I just bought a new car the other day, or used car the other day, and with the interest rates and everything as it is, I'm looking at this, and 35% interest, is that the interest rates we're paying from whom we're borrowing from?
That's not the interest rate. That's just the percentage of the
funds.
170,150, 35% of that was spent on interest.
Okay, all right. I was like, we have a high interest rate.
No,
Can
no,
we-
no.
Can we find a
Our-
different
our-
bank?
Our bond issues have fluctuated between 2.5% and 4%, depending
Okay.
upon the market.
All right, cool. That looks a lot better.
And that leads us to the construction fund. The active construction projects for FY25 were Indian Hollow Elementary, which was completed under budget by $167,000. James Wood High School, which will be completed this fiscal year. The Jordan Springs Elementary Expansion Project, scheduled for completion in August of 2027. Middletown Elementary Expansion, which is scheduled for completion in August of 2028. And finally, the Fourth High School, scheduled to open in August of 2029. You'll notice the budget on these projects, as well as the expenditures thus far, are displayed in the life-to-date format. So we look at it as a life-to-date perspective versus an annual on the financial statements.
Ms. Smith, just a comment. So we have 6 projects listed here. 5 of those 6 are still currently in their active, they're still currently active or will begin. So James Wood High School addition and renovation, $895,750 encumbrance to that, which means it's allocated to that to tie up the remaining bills that we have to pay. It's my understanding. It usually takes about a year post completion to do that. Fantastic. Now, I want to talk about Indian Hollow. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. It came in under budget by $167,205. Can you speak up a little bit more and can you say that one more time?
$167,205. It came in under budget.
Under budget, meaning less than what we budgeted for is what under budget means. Just want to make, just really want to make that crystal clear. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, also the James Wood project as well came under budget as well.
Well,
Close to $2 million.
but it's my understanding too, there's still some outstanding fund. Well, let me make,
We're still going to come under that because
Okay.
of the guaranteed maximum price. There are going to be some things we take out of that with some upcoming things we'll be talking through, but we'll still come way under that.
awesome. I cannot wait to see that in a future finance committee slide.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Go build
And
grounds.
it's helpful when these projects come under budget because then it helps lower our future borrowing costs on other projects that are appropriated.
Awesome.
Well, not only that, but
great.
it helps build trust with the community, right? We're not going out there and saying, oh, yeah, we can get it for this, and then we got to keep going back and forth with the county. Building that trust is going to be essential, especially on this Fourth High School and these 2 additions or expansions at Middletown, Jordan Springs, that we are going to, take the tax dollar seriously. And, when we come back and have to ask for another project, such as the middle school that'll be coming up way after I'm gone, but it's something to show that we're doing well with the dollars that are given to us. That's my soapbox.
All right, our school capital projects fund are the capital projects that are in our capital asset plan. We had a $1.2 million beginning balance that were projects that were in progress at the beginning of last fiscal year. We did receive a transfer from the county because they fund these projects. There is a list of the completed projects as well as ones that are in progress on page 13 of the financial report. The ending balance of $4.2 million includes the ones that are in progress. You will see on the sources and uses of fund the 13% for the weapons detection that is included in that ending balance. The Special Grants Fund, this is the funds that we received from the state to provide high-intensive tutoring, Virginia Literacy Act implementation, and to help combat chronic absenteeism in our schools. We have a ending balance of $1.6 million. This is carrying forward to FY26, but it must be used by June 30, 2026. Our school textbook fund, This covers any of our textbooks that we have to purchase throughout the year. In FY25, we had an adoption of math textbooks for grades 6 through 12. The expense for that was $1.1 million, just over $1 million. The revenues this year were more than our expenditures because we only had that one purchase. We will be carrying forward $4.4 million for future adoptions. These can vary from year to year, and they do purchase printed or digital copies. The funds for the textbook fund are from our state standards of quality, but we do have a local match that comes from the operating fund. Lisa, back to you.
Next up is our School Nutrition Services Fund. The school nutrition program operates under the National School Lunch Program. 9 schools served under the Community Eligibility Provision, or CEP, where all meals served to participating students are free through federal reimbursements. Expenditures were $503,319 over revenues, and the ending fund balance was just over $3.3 million. Sources of funding and how those funds were spent are highlighted on the pie chart on this slide. The fund supports 97 full-time equivalent positions. And to speak to a point earlier, the fund ended the year with a residual fund balance of just over $3.2 million, which supports average operating expenses of about 4 months, where best practice is 3 months.
Madam Chair, that, on the left-hand side, that transfer from operating of 8%. Can you tell us more about that? Just because I'm not sure I exactly understand.
We transfer $1 million to help support the operational costs of the school nutrition program from the school operating fund.
Was it because of a higher need? Did we not, is that because we didn't budget? Is that because the need came in higher?
Because the projections, the costs were greater than the revenues that we would receive from the federal government or from sales to students.
Okay. If I remember correctly, that does not include bad meal debt that we're carrying, right?
It does.
It does include.
It does include. So the $1 million that we transfer to the school operating fund helps support all costs of the program, including bad debt expense, the write-off of unpaid meal balances.
I think that's important, especially for those at home who are watching this, because of the way that the code is here in the Commonwealth and our inability to recover unpaid balances. That money doesn't just disappear. That we are having to pay for that. There's really no such thing as a free lunch because somebody is paying for it. And so I'm seeing as we go, because we see that, I think weekly, monthly, we're seeing the amount of meal debt that we're accruing.
Weekly, yes,
and
sir.
it continues to expound.
It does.
And that is something that I think is going to be ripe for discussion because the problem's getting worse.
Agreed.
When we do have that discussion, is there any way we can get like a chart or something showing over the past 5 years what the ending balance was compared to now? That way we make a better informed decision when it comes to that time. Because I know that CEP was a big hot topic at the beginning of last year, and I know I voted against expanding it. Hopefully didn't shoot ourselves in the foot here, but I'd also like to see what it would be if it went the other way, right? What our debt would be. Because to Dr. Erskine's point, somebody's paying for it. At the end of the day, somebody is paying for it, and that somebody is the taxpayer.
And if it continues to go up and we don't change our current way of doing business, then we're going to have to come to the county with a higher budget in this one fund, for this one fund to
So
accommodate that.
the amount of unpaid meal balances for this fiscal year that we're talking about was just over $267,000. We did receive about $5,000 in donations to help support it.
And just trying to remember to past conversations, I think the prior fiscal year, it was only like 150, 160,000.
You're remembering correctly. All right, are we ready to move on to the school operating fund?
All right. All right, the school operating fund, we received $245.2 million. You will see that a majority of our funding came from the state, which is different than past years where the county has been our higher funding source. Our uses of funds of $242.1 million are broken out by categories that the state requires us for our expenditures. So we ended the year with a just over $3 million surplus. We do have obligated surplus of $273,610, which Ms. Anderson will talk about here in a few minutes. And then we have an unobligated surplus of $2.8 million, which is 1.15% of the budget. This equates to, if you have a household income of $50,000, having $575 left in your pocket at the end of the year.
Wow. So, I find that amazing because clearly, even with all the uncertainty in the economy and the uncertainty of interest rate, all the things, all the uncertainty of prices, we are still coming in at essentially $575, if you will, to a normal average income in Frederick County. And what happens, Mrs. Anderson, if we wind up in the negative? We all wind up wearing orange jumpsuits, right? Yes. So we always want to finish the year with a surplus. I know there's a lot of talk in the community in certain facets of the community about zero-based budgeting. Well, if we wound up with zero-based budgeting, we would run the risk of wearing orange jumpsuits. So going above our spending more than what we have. So this is excellent. Thank you.
Which is okay.
Some of the key contributing factors for our unobligated were sales tax receipts came in higher than what we had budgeted. This happened in the fourth quarter. We received more funds than we were expecting. We had budgetary savings in the payroll department from vacancy and turnover savings of just over $1 million. And then we had budgetary savings in our schools and our departments throughout the division. So all 21 schools and then all of the departments located within the school board office, which left us the $2.8 million.
So about that third line, the budgetary savings in schools and departments, last year that was around $600,000, and that's just from day-to-day operations, teachers, administrators, staff being very fiscally conscious with what they spend in their individual schools. And it was at came in $600,000 under budget last year. And now they came in $820,000 under budget. So thank you to everyone out there for being that fiscally conscientious and conservative person in your job. So thanks to all of FCS and FCPS employees for that. That's huge.
All right, so now we'll jump to the obligated portion of those remaining surplus funds. So you see a list here of restricted type activities of funding that we received from whether it be from the state, the federal government, or local sources for specific reasons. So what this list essentially is cash that we received before June 30th that we could not spend by June 30th. So part of that surplus, just over $273,000, we are requesting be carried forward into fiscal year 26 to complete those items.
Sounds great. Just for the general public, and for myself too, this is how I reconcile this in my mind is, well, why didn't you spend that money within the fiscal year? Well, that allocation, I'll just throw one out, and I don't know of the date that I'm about to use. I'm just using this for an illustration's sake, but the first bank donation, they may have come to us on June 29th and said, here you go, we would like to donate to you guys. Fantastic. Well, the budget year ends on the 30th. So unless we had a $275 expenditure that we wanted to spend that money on, we would have to roll it to the next year. And we just opened the GMU Data Science Lab school, so of course we wouldn't be able to spend all of that money in this fiscal year. So
That's
awesome.
great.
Madam Chair, I move that we recommend to the full board the request for a budget adjustment to the school operating fund for $273,609.50, which represents obligated funds received during fiscal year 25 and requested for carry forward into fiscal year 26.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
So I just want to remind that once the school board approves this, it will be forwarded to the county finance committee and then on to the board of supervisors for appropriation. So we have a recommendation of how to use the remaining unobligated surplus funds. So I want to take you back to our June Finance Committee meeting when Mr. Logan, who at the time was the Director of Transportation, provided a presentation to the Finance Committee about the state of our bus fleet. So here was a slide that was presented that provided the age as well as the mileage condition of our fleet. So you'll notice that buses after 15 years of age, we still have a number of buses there that could be replaced. So I do want to remind you that thanks to the school board, we have funds in our operating budget this school year to replace 11 buses. Mr. Shepard also shared what the average repair cost is for a bus after a certain age and mileage. So this data we took into consideration of a potential use of that $2.8 million.
If, Ms. Anderson, do you mind going back to the previous slide? One of the things that I'd like to share is the state of Virginia recommends a replacement cycle of 15 years. And in addition, with the knowledge of Mr. Holland, he shared that in West Virginia, the replacement cycle is 12 years or 180,000 miles. So if you look, if we were to take that, we have considerable amount of buses that are past that, right? And so what we're trying to prevent here is essentially falling off a cliff. And so you'll hear more about that in a few.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Thompson.
So we also want to revisit our capital asset plan. The projects that you see listed here were not funded through this most recent budget process. So we took this into consideration to bring forth a proposal to you. But I also want to let you know that it's that time of year in preparation of the next budget cycle where our facilities team is taking a look at our priorities and shifting based upon their current condition, no different than what we would have in our own personal households. So that reprioritization happens based upon the 3 levels that you see here, how those projects are prioritized. So based upon an initial review, we are still making a recommendation to fund the Bass Hoover HVAC replacement. So at this point, I'd like to invite Mr. Davis up, that he could provide some additional information.
Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members, Dr. Hummer. So let's talk about Bass Hoover a little bit. As Kristen mentioned, we are still recommending to do this. Originally scheduled for replacement fiscal year 26, but budget was unfunded. So we want to replace 7 air handling units that are 55 years old. Units are failing. Replacement parts are hard to find when they get to be 55 years old. We can't find them. We had an issue earlier this year where we had to physically call a company to make a part to this system. It was an air-conditioned part, a coil that failed in the winter. Had it failed in the summer, school would have been without air conditioning for several weeks, possibly a month over the summer. One unit failed in the winter. Spring large section building would have been, there you go, talk to it there. Install 5 new dedicated outdoor air systems to assist in building humidity control. With all the recent claims that we've had with issues in mildew around our schools, this will help with that in each school. And we're going to look at this every HVAC project that we do moving forward. We'll see that line item on there, humidity control. Did we have the number breakdown on this one, Kristen? I know it. I just didn't know if it was the next slide. So originally
It's couple slides in the forward, 1.815.
Originally, we asked for $3 million for Bass Hoover. We've scaled that back to 1.8. based on all the equipment that we've put in there this year. There's been new boiler put in there to help with the mechanical equipment. A new chiller's been put in there. So we've done a lot at this school. So we're able to reduce that $3 million ask down to 1.8 to use that through the unobligated funds. The second one that we're asking for is Dow J. Howard HVAC replacement request. This one was not on that list that you guys saw. However, the facilities team, we've reevaluated that list this year, and you guys will see that coming up in the budget cycle, where there's going to be several other items that get priority on that list, mechanical equipment, some other things on there. This is one of them. We want to replace 4 out of the 11 units installed in this building that are from 1987. HVAC system as a whole has generated over 400 labor hours. Those are our facilities technicians in-house, not subcontracted out. 2 of our guys have spent 400 hours over there in 18 months, which is incredible. 1 unit is operating 50% due to a compressor failure, so there is a failed compressor now. Estimate, can't hold me to it, but that's a $10,000 repair right there to put 1 compressor in. One of the units caused a contactor to have a small electrical burn. Another unit has already been replaced, causing smoke in the building and things like that. Those are fire department dispatch calls. The fire department has actually been to this building to deal with the smoke in the units and all that, and then we've gone through and put parts on them to fix them. So we've now hit the safety issue here. With the unobligated funds, these are the 2 schools that we feel have the biggest impact that we could do now and not wait for the budget cycle coming up. So those there.
Just out of curiosity,
Yes.
on the previous slide for Bass Hoover, the air handling unit, what is if you were to do all your maintenance, factory suggested and warranted maintenance on time, every time, what is the anticipated, what's the normal lifespan?
30 years is standard for this equipment. So we're 25 years over, and we're limping them along. So
Got it.
The cost would have been a little bit lower, maybe $200,000-$300,000, but we do want to throw the humidity control in here for now. It just makes total sense. We're going to touch it once and move forward for 55-year-old equipment.
Yes, especially in light of what you mentioned, the mildew issues we're having at Sharando in the trailers, in the bubble at
And
Armel, and
transportation.
then we have another one, transportation.
Yeah, we had 3.
Those were humidity.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to start doing that moving forward with everything we do. But yeah, 55-year-old equipment on a school that if it goes down, we have to build parts for it,
Yeah.
custom make parts because they're not available.
Right.
So
Just one follow-up question. So these humidity control systems, are we just talking about dehumidifiers?
yeah,
Am I
outdoor
oversimplifying?
air brought in, dehumidifiers.
So are they supplementing the HVA system? Because if I understand correctly, isn't that's one of the things that can save on the life of an HVAC system if it's not also pulling out massive amounts of humidity?
It doesn't
right?
supplement it. It adds to it, I guess.
So it's not, this isn't just a comfort thing. This is a.
Oh no, it's not a comfort thing. It's a necessity. We have to pull the humidity out of the building.
So obviously, just speaking for myself, but we've gotten 55 years out of some of these air handling units. That's about as fiscally responsible as I think a person could ever ask for. I don't see any reason why we
Yeah.
need to try to get
We
more.
have really good technicians, but we're pushing the limit here.
You've doubled the life expectancy of the unit. That's huge. Thank you to these guys in there sweating and making that happen.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine how tough that must be.
Yeah, we didn't do the hours on this one, but they're probably up there with Dow J technician hours. So
A couple questions, Madam Chair. So with Bass Hoover, you hit the nail on the head. We've done so much work out there between chillers, boilers, now HVAC, parking lot. I mean, the list goes on. I'm sure you guys
paint job.
Yeah, paint. I'm sure that there's other little things that's come up on the list as well. If this was a house, this would be like one of them scary haunted houses,
Not that bad.
Just, what was that Tom Hanks movie?
Money Pit.
Yeah, Money Pit. That's it. you bulldoze and build a new one. No, but it shows why we need that good maintenance and care program that you've established. So thank you for that. I'm hoping that when you say HVAC replacement, are you talking just the units, or are we talking ductwork? Are we talking how far
So
down the
full,
rabbit
full
hole are we gonna
system.
go?
We're doing full system. We'll tie into the existing ductwork as much as possible. These units are up on a very tight mezzanine that I cannot stand up in, so we have to pull them out, possibly cut a hole in the roof to get them out, deconstruct them, things like that. They're built into the school.
And with Bass Hoover being the age that it is, and up around that ductwork, are we going to run into asbestos, do you think?
We've tested. If we do, we'll properly handle that. We have third-party companies that can handle that all day long.
Yeah, but it takes a while, so, and then you have kids in the school, so would we be doing this during, a holiday, or would we be doing, because we don't have something coming up right around the corner?
We'll have to go through the bid process on both of these projects here, and then we can come up with timing and schedule, things like that. If it's a summer project, great. School's out, we'll go from there, just move the kids to another school. There's multiple ways that we can do this. I couldn't say that, how we're gonna do it now. Let's get through the bid process, find out what it entails to do. If it's I can tell you they're not 1 week, 2 week projects.
No, not at all.
They're 30 to 60 day projects.
Yeah, it's
Especially
is
this one.
a big undertaking right
Yeah.
here. All right, and then and you guys are having to custom build parts or find them, from a junkyard or wherever you guys get
Yeah.
them. LKQ, who knows?
Very similar to that.
So, moving on to Dow J. So, Dow J just got 2 new HVAC units on the addition that was, or the renovation that was put over there. Now, if we're running these 4 HVAC units that we're looking to replace, say we don't, right? Say we say, we can use those funds somewhere else. Those 4 units are going to pull and extra load off the 2 that we just put up there, correct? And
It's
the other ones that are
possible,
up there.
depending on how they're separated with walls inside the building, but it's not it is possible that can happen.
So we could be killing the lifespan of the other ones that are up there already and the 2 new ones. Yeah.
And you've already got units that are operating at 50% right now. You've already got failures up there.
Yeah.
Now, we're only
understood.
doing 4 out of the 11 existing. The other we'll get through our CAP budget.
And definitely with the safety aspect of it, recognizing those hazards. Yeah, I'm all about getting those 4 units replaced. And then maybe even upping the inspections on the ones that we've got that we're limping along. Because I would hate to see a fire at that school, especially while students are there. And then earlier in the presentation, before you got called up, Mr. Davis, we talked about the buses. So this is one of the things that I brought up during the budget cycle is getting additional buses, and they got cut back. You win some, you lose some, I guess. But I do have a problem with this, and my problem is replacement buses. I would rather get the buses and have the buses. That way we're not digging in when we do have the 4th high school. We have these buses on hand. We can use these buses. The ones that we're looking to replace, let's try to limp them along as long as we can. So long as there's no safety factors or anything like that, instead of just outright replacing them. So we have 11, or what are we talking about, 11 here? So 11 more in the fleet, right? So we have 11 more in the fleet, and then we've got the ones that are up for replacement, but we can limp them along as best we can until that 4th high school comes.
So, Madam Chair, if I can respond to that, and please, gentlemen, chime in here. So, right now, thanks to your support, we're at 11 bus replacement cycle.
Correct.
So we get 11 new buses every year built into our operating budget. We want to get to the magic number of 13. The issue that we're running into was we went many, many years with getting what was it, 4 buses, if that. So it was a compounded issue, right? So one of the things that Mr. Holland has done coming on board, as well as the work that Mr. Shepard has done, is sure, we will make some of these buses continue to work if we can. But I came out there a couple weeks ago, and they showed me a bus that they had to decommission, and it was a safety concern. So all of the windows in the bus had broken plastic where little kids can put their finger through, and all it takes is the bus to go up and down, and they're going to lose a finger. So we can't do that. One of the buses, the floor was rotting out because of leaking. So can we make the buses work? Sure. Is it something that our kids deserve and our community deserves? Absolutely not. So we're not just going to replace a bus just to replace a bus, I think is what you're alluding to. But as these buses continue to get old, and we continue to, as Mr. Davis was just mentioning about the maintenance and making sure that they're up to par, it's turning into quite a task.
Well,
Because we haven't been replacing buses along the way.
and I understand that. I mean, if we have the space to keep these buses on hand instead of sending them to the boneyard, same problem Mr. Davis just ran into, where he's got to go out and find a coil that doesn't exist.
Sure.
We can cannibalize parts, can we not?
Oh, yeah, no. So we have, and Mr. Holland can chime in here. So we do have a boneyard of buses that we have. If you recall, last year, we surplused a lot of them because we took all the parts away. So those buses still sit there. But yeah, I'll let Mr. Holland chime in on that. So to your point, yeah.
So some of the problems that we're running into, like the bus that Dr. Hummer mentioned, those buses are 20-year-old buses. And we're having issues with the windows breaking. When they built those buses, so we can't modify a window at all on a bus. So if we take those buses out, the way they installed them, they glued them in. So whenever if we go to an old bus to take those out, we're going to end up tearing up the windows. So we're parking those buses because we can't, and the manufacturers stopped making those because they're such old buses. So that's some of the problems we're running into. The problem with the floor, I don't know if you guys know this, but the floors are made out of marine grade plywood. So after 20 years of that, they get, they're rotten, they start warping. And so then we end up with, basically having to tear out all the seats out of the bus, all the flooring out of the bus, and then tearing up all that plywood and putting in new plywood. Well, by the time we're finished, we're not only $5,000 or $6,000 worth of parts and supplies, we're also looking at labor, and that's probably going to be close to $10,000. So we're at like $15,000 on a bus that if we sold in surplus, or even if we auctioned off, is only worth $1,000 probably tops.
And that's part of my point is, yeah, if we auction it off or surplus it, we're not getting any benefit out of that. If we take those 11 buses, right, and send them to be cannibalized for parts, we can use those parts for our future fleet. Not with every bus, because I know different makes, models, manufacturers.
Yeah, and we do
But
that to a
I
point.
just want to make sure that we're not just getting rid of 11 buses.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, these are buses that won't pass inspection, and we do cannibalize as much as we can. I mean, one of the buses we had parked the other day had brand-new tires on it. Obviously, we took those tires off, put on used tires. So we're very fiscally responsible with that, but whenever we're getting into, we have some buses that are 1995s and 1997s that are spare buses. So
Mr. Holland, if I might add, thank you for that information. So also to your point, Mr. Atkins, as you know, anything we purchase with taxpayer dollars, we are held accountable for that. So we can't just give stuff away for free. We have to go through the surplus process. So we try to take all those parts off of those vehicles as much as we can, and then we surplus them. And the surplus, Mrs. Anderson, sorry to put you on the spot, we didn't get very much money for everything we surplus. I think it was maybe $10,000, if that.
That's correct,
But
yeah.
those were buses that didn't just come off the road. Those are buses that have already been picked apart. It was literally just a carcass sitting there, essentially.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
Absolutely.
we're stripping it down as best we can, to future our fleet. If that's the case, then I'm 100% behind it.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure we weren't just replacing the oldest 11 just to replace the oldest 11.
Madam Chair.
sorry.
Mr. Holland, just a request, and not for this presentation, but perhaps for next year's financial presentations when we're asking for another 11 buses or 13 buses. pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Oh, yeah.
If we
Yep.
could have some photos of these Mad Max
Absolutely.
buses that are out there,
Yeah.
that just helps us understand. I mean, you could tell me if it was airplane parts that were, I would be able to identify these things on an aircraft, but I can't on a school bus. So having that photo in front for us as well as the general public, I think would really help.
Absolutely. And just one other thing I wanted to point out, and I do want to thank, the board. If you look 0 to 5 years, we're at 96 buses. So we've been really good over the last 5 years of buying new buses. The years that really get us are years 6 to 15, where we're only, in that time frame, we have 24 and 25. So that's where, where we see the problem.
And the one that really makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck is the 16 to 20 range, 72, with an expected lifespan of 15 years as per the state.
Yeah,
So
that's egregious.
That's,
I mean, not your fault, it's our fault.
yeah, that's the alligator closest to the boat that I see with these.
Madam Chair. Yeah, well, one thing I would also like to add, which was a statistic that jumped out to me when Mr. Holland shared, was the number of buses that we had this year that are pending decommissioning for things like what Mr. Atkins is sharing is 18. So even with these additional buses, we're still a net loss for this year.
Okay, great, thank you. That's good intel.
Madam Chair, just a couple of follow-up questions based on what I heard. First, Mr. Thompson, since that's the most recent. So am I understanding that regardless of how many new ones we're buying, there are 18 that have to be decommissioned? Did I understand that correctly?
There's 18 that are currently decommissioned already that we are waiting decommission. We have those on a list that we'll be presenting to the board at some point and asking for those for us to get scrap metal for. So-
Okay.
so
The reason I ask is because knowing that there are still over 20 buses on the road that were there when I graduated scares me a little bit based on I'm not getting any younger, and I'm starting to think what Mr. Atkins' point, and if I'm stating this wrong, Miles, please tell me. The need for sheer quantity of buses is increasing. And if we can, any chance we have to milk extra years or miles out of a bus, I think that's what I understood you to be saying.
Right.
Let's not just do an even swap if we don't have to.
Exactly.
Well, and that's why you also see the over 20-year buses. Those aren't on runs. Those are spare. We've been good about keeping some extra buses because we have such an old fleet to where, we as long as it's running and it's in good condition, we have it in our spare fleet. So our spare numbers are a little inflated just because we've held on to stuff just because we have such an older fleet.
Spare bus doesn't necessarily mean good bus.
Well,
I
a
think
lot of,
I'm-
and if you look at the one slide where it shows the cost of repairs, you'll see a big dip in the older buses, but that's because those buses, all we really are doing on those are a preventative maintenance, so changing the oil, checking them out. We're not doing major repairs on those because they're sitting.
Good to go. I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll advance towards what our recommendation is of how to use those unobligated funds of just over 2.8 million. So we are recommending we replace 4 additional school buses and the Bass Hoover and Dow J. Howard HVAC projects.
So we have a recommendation. How would the committee like to proceed?
I messed up the first one, you go ahead. I can't even approve the agenda. I was just looking at it.
I'm just digesting numbers before I jump into this motion. On one hand, I'm so proud of the system. Dr. Hummer, you and your staff, I so appreciate how responsible you guys are with the dollar, and being able to shift funds as a board is something that I've learned we have to be able to do in order to meet our needs. Whenever I see numbers like this, it just gives me a little bit of pause, and I wanted to make sure that I'm digesting this, but ready for a motion, I think. All right, so at this point, I'll move that we recommend forward to the full board request for a budget adjustment to the capital projects fund in the amount of $2,815,185, which represents the fiscal year 25 remaining unobligated funds from the school operating fund to be used to purchase 4 replacement school buses, replace HVAC units at Bass Hoover Elementary School and Dow J. Howard Learning Center.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So now this motion will go to the school board on the 23rd, and then after that, if approved, it will be forwarded to the County Finance Committee and then ultimately to the County Board of Supervisors for appropriation decision. And that concludes our presentation.
Excellent, thank you. And it looks like that is the end of the agenda. How would the board like to, or how would the committee like to proceed?
All right, I'll try it again. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.